Hey y'all, oh happy day. Welcome back to the Positive Thought Series, a series on how to think more positively. I'm your girl Yan. I am so happy that you are back. If this is your first time, welcome. This episode is going to be kind of like a part 2 to last week's episode. Last week's episode, we talked about changing your thoughts so that you can change the world. And if you didn't want to change the world, we talked about how you can change the way you look at the world. And I came to you all with that episode based off of a book I started reading called The Inner Work. And so I was on the fence about if I was going to do a part 2, but I was like looking at the remaining topics that I have for this year. And one of them was you can change any negative thought. And I was like, this actually is right in line with this book that I've been reading. That is our topic of the week, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. You can change any negative thought. Do you believe me when I say that? Or do you not believe me when I say that? Because you can. And last week, I was talking to you all about this book I started reading called The Inner Work, and I was telling you the story about how I was like, there were some things in my healing journey that I still need to work on. And one of the things I said I was going to do is get this book called The Inner Work. And as I started reading it and unpacking it and looking at things a little bit more, it really started to open up my mind, because it was just like, we operate from these themes of consciousness is essentially what it was saying. And in these themes of consciousness, we could either be coming from a place of inner peace and love, or we could be coming from a place essentially of negativity. And for me, it's like, I want to lead and operate always from that place of inner peace and love versus a place of negativity. And even though I'm such a positive person, sometimes I can find myself getting caught up in a negative thought pattern. But ever since I read this book, it's been so eye-opening. And so I think I told y'all a while ago that I had the topics wrote out, and it's kind of dope to see everything aligned the way that it is. Because when I seen this topic and I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, this is our next topic. You can change any negative thought, because it just goes in line with what we were talking about last week. And what I wanted to do this episode is get into, how do you change negative thoughts? I have a step-by-step guide, and I'm just going to go ahead and give it to you. How do you change those negative thoughts? So last week I also told you all how they said you have to challenge that negative thought. So when that negative thought arises, we're going to challenge it. Secondly, we're going to question the validity of that negative thought. We're going to question it and say, why am I thinking this negative thought? Third, we're going to replace that negative thought with a more positive one. And then the fourth step is to practice mindfulness and be more present and welcome in more positive thoughts. Because if you remember last week, I was telling you that usually these negative thoughts, they come from our past experiences, and we have layers on us that we've added on that can cause us to look at things in a negative way. So if we're being more mindful and we're welcoming in more positive thoughts, then we're only going to be more positive. Number 5 step is going to be around more positive people. You know the saying, you are who you hang with. If you're around 4 negative people, you're going to be the 5th negative person. And lastly, this one, I really feel like it's definitely possible to master all 5, and you can do this on your own. But I do recognize that sometimes we might need help. So hopefully you have the kind of friends that will listen to you and understand what you're trying to do, and they'll help you work towards being more positive. Ask for help. Ask them to help you, with what you're trying to do. Tell them, what direction you're going in, what you're working on. And they should be able to be supportive, friends or family. And also there's always therapy as well. That's also something that you could possibly do as well. That'll help. So that's how we change a negative thought. You can change any negative thought. And I thought this was really dope. Just reading this book, as I told y'all, I've been reading this book, and it's really been just opening my my mindset and opening up the way that I view things even more. And now I find myself, anytime I'm talking to someone and someone's thinking about something kind of negatively, I find myself challenging them. I find myself saying, hey, well, what about thinking about it in this way instead of thinking about it in that way? And it's just mind blowing how you can read something and it can literally change your life forever, because I really feel like that's what this book is doing for me. And I'm like, any opportunity that I have to share this information with someone else, I'm going to do that. Because ultimately, the goal of this positive thought series, as I've said this entire series, is to get you to think about things in a more positive manner. This series is a series on how to think more positively. And so what's the opposite of positivity? Negativity. So now I'm here to tell you, you can change any negative thought. The example that I gave you all last week, I actually had a similar example today. I was cleaning, washing the dishes, and the stopper in the sink was stuck in the sink. And I thought I took it out. But you know how sometimes you lift it up, but it doesn't actually come all the way out, and sometimes it will fall back in. So that's what ended up happening. I started to get so annoyed. I'm like, oh my, and I'm like, wait, what am I doing? I'm mad that the water isn't going down when I clearly just didn't take it out. I stopped. I challenged that negative thought. I questioned the validity of that negative thought, because why am I getting mad when I clearly didn't pull this out? That's just what's happening. And I replaced it with a more positive thought. Okay, that wasn't that big of a deal. It's okay. I just pulled the stopper out. Okay, now the water can go down. I practice mindfulness as well, because I was just when I think about what just happened here, although this is such a minuscule and minor example, this isn't something super negative, but what I'm saying is something like that has the power to become something super negative. It has the power to consume me. But then I was able to just think about it and be mindful in that moment and realize it all started because I just didn't pull the stopper out all the way. That's why the water didn't go down. So it's you gotta look at every negative thought that way. You have to literally start questioning those negative thoughts, because again, as I was telling you before in the last week's episode, everything starts in your mind. And one thing the book said, you got to think about your thoughts they're just sitting there and they're ready to come out at any moment, no matter what the circumstance may be. And depending on what it is, it could come out as a negative thought. It's your ego mind, which is trying to make up for whatever the circumstance or situation may be. But you can't be ego driven. You have to consciously really think about things and control those thoughts. And ever since I read that book, it's just been so mind blowing. And I'm like, this is a perfect part 2, because we want to actually look in and say, okay, you've been telling me I can think more positively by doing this, by doing that, but how do I stop thinking negatively? And that's where you start with those 6 steps, 5 steps, but 6 if you have to absolutely seek outside help. But I thought this would be a really good episode, and it still goes on with the inner work, because that's essentially what they're talking about in that book as well, is operating from a conscious mindset and being able to control those thoughts, and knowing that those thoughts can't consume you. You just have to be able to stop it in its tracks. So yeah, that'll be it for this episode, y'all. I just wanted to bring y'all even more in depth, something that you can use, a guide that you can have. How do we change those negative thoughts? We use those 5 steps. Those 5 steps again: challenging the negative thought, questioning the validity of that thought, replacing that thought with a more positive one, practicing mindfulness, being around positive people, and if needed, therapy, seeking help from your friends or family. You can change any negative thought, any negative circle, any negative anything. It goes beyond just our thoughts. It goes around our environment. You can remove yourself from whatever it is that's negative and weighing on you, and choose to go into something more positive. And so choose positivity, choose to let go, choose to be in more environments that are way more positive, and bring out that positive side of you more. I hope that you use these steps the next time a negative thought comes into your head. and you choose to think about things more positively, and you change those negative thoughts, and you find yourself just doing it, and then you'll start to just continue to have a more positive outlook on life. That'll do it for this episode. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.